After being found guilty of drug trafficking and firearm charges in the KDY RICO case, Keion Michael Brown, also known as YNV Topstep, is currently awaiting sentencing later this month. Keion is the brother and co-defendant of Kali Ahmed Brown, more famously known as the rapper Migo Lee. A review of the latest court documents filed in the rapper's case reveals prosecutors are asking a federal judge for him to be sentenced to over 16 years in prison. Prosecutors allege that Topstep has been undeterred by his indictment, being involved in a high-profile 2023 mass shooting at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and going on a carjacking and robbery spree, all after being indicted in a federal RICO case. Now, just weeks after his guilty plea in that case, the KDY member is being accused of distributing drugs in jail after contraband was found in a search of his cell. The following are excerpts taken directly from federal prosecutors' sentencing memo. On June 15, 2023, a federal grand jury in D.C. returned an indictment charging the defendant and his KDY co-conspirators in the instant case. Following a takedown operation on June 26 and 27, 2023, law enforcement arrested everyone charged in the indictment except for the defendant, Yovan Williams, Juwan Clark, and Warren Fields. Various public notices identified the defendant as a wanted individual in this matter. Superscript 3. Indeed, the below communications between the defendant, green text, and co-defendant Juwan Clark, blue text, show that the defendant, co-defendant Yovan Williams, aka Choo or Chewy, and Juwan Clark knew of their fugitive status by at least September 2023, if not before. Morgan State University incident. The evidence indicates the defendant was either involved in or present at an October 3, 2023 shooting at Morgan State University, MSU. On October 3, 2023, at approximately 9:23 p.m., officers responded to a shooting at MSU, where they found 5 gunshot victims who required hospitalization. In their investigation, law enforcement learned that, outside the university's cafeteria, one of the suspects made hand signs and yelled at a group of individuals, resulting in a verbal altercation that escalated to 2 suspects retrieving firearms and shooting into a crowd of people, ultimately hitting the 5 victims. MSU surveillance from immediately before the shooting depicts 2 persons of interest matching multiple witness physical descriptions of the shooters. A bolo was generated from this surveillance and circulated, whereupon a civilian witness to the shooting and D.C. police officers identified Yovan Williams and M.B., the defendant's juvenile brother. Maryland state authorities have since charged both with, among other offenses, attempted murder. An extraction of the defendant's phone, seized on November 17, 2023, shows his phone connected to MSU's public Wi-Fi on the date of the shooting, October 3, 2023, throughout the evening. Below is an excerpt from the defendant's phone extraction showing his use of the university's Wi-Fi. Notably, there is no evidence the defendant has ever been enrolled at MSU. What's more, text messages from the defendant's phone suggest that the defendant was at or otherwise in the immediate vicinity of the shooting, as he states that he is on his way back to the cafeteria to his confederate. In the below text messages, the defendant's phone number ends in -4812. Upon reviewing the defendant's phone extraction, the drugs recovered from his person on the night of his arrest proved unsurprising. Despite knowing that he was under indictment, including for drug trafficking offenses, the defendant continued to traffic narcotics, including opioids. For example, September 2023 text messages reveal that the defendant was selling jams, a street term used interchangeably for legitimate oxycodone and counterfeit fentanyl-laced, among other drugs. In each of the below excerpts, the defendant's messages are in green. Post-plea conduct. On September 20, 2024, the defendant pleaded guilty to counts 1 and 16 of the superseding indictment for his involvement in a drug trafficking conspiracy under the auspices of the KDY Crew, and for his January 26, 2023 possession of 3 firearms at the 1704 D Street NE Stash House in furtherance of his drug trafficking crimes. See plea agreement. Nevertheless, just 2 months later, on November 19, 2024, a search of the defendant's cell block revealed his stash of 43 Suboxone strips bundled together with a rubber band and concealed within a cup. The image depicts the strips once seized and unfurled by law enforcement. Suboxone is a Schedule III controlled substance often used to treat opioid addiction or pain. An opioid itself, it can cause euphoria and ultimately addiction if abused or taken contrary to a prescriber's instructions. When most incentivized to refrain from continued criminal conduct, the defendant was yet again caught with a stash of controlled substances that, given the quantity, he ostensibly intended to distribute to other inmates in the jail. The court should also consider his clear membership in a crew, which amplifies the dangerousness his criminal behavior poses to the community. Indeed, his staunch KDY membership is corroborated by his presence in numerous music videos with other members, including co-defendants Keion Brown and Tristan Ware, which all commence with a SEAL Team 6 or ST6 emblem. In the screenshot from a music video aptly titled, Shooting and Driving, the defendant appears on the screen with his brother Keion Brown, who raps that SEAL Team 6 is always shooting and driving. During the same music video, Keion Brown further describes SEAL Team 6 as a team of shooters who are young and violent. Such videos often include hand signs signifying provocations directed at rival crews in DC. As shown in the below image of co-defendant Yovan Williams from the same music video. The United States is particularly troubled by the defendant's continued criminal behavior at the DC jail, involving conduct analogous to the offense he had pleaded guilty to and despite the incentive to comply before his sentencing hearing. This infraction in a controlled setting signals that the defendant remains undeterred and will easily relapse to a criminal lifestyle destructive to him and others. A prison sentence at the high end of his guidelines range, i.e., 195 months, provides the best measure of deterrence available to the court. For the foregoing reasons, the government recommends that the court sentence the defendant to 195 months of imprisonment, to be followed by 60 months of supervised release.
12 members of the so-called Kennedy Street crew were arrested by MPD in the past 2 days. The U.S. Attorney says over 400 grams of fentanyl were seized, and they described that as the core of their criminal operation. 100 kilograms of cannabis were seized too, 42 firearms seized, 8 of those suspected to be machine guns, worth several $100,000 total. The U.S. Attorney says the Kennedy Street crew was located between 100 and 1200 Kennedy Street Northwest. Also known as KDY, this crew allegedly ran open-air drug markets.
Here's a look at that video. You can see several people walking into a grassy area near the scene of the shooting. Now, it's hard to get a good look at their faces, but if you have any information or you know who these people might be, you're urged to contact police. Meanwhile, Morgan State is responding to the shooting by canceling or postponing most of the remaining homecoming events. The homecoming concert, the parade, the pep rally, all canceled. The football game and homecoming gala are postponed for now. All classes also canceled for the rest of the week.
Now, Morgan State is a historically black university in Baltimore. It's a few minutes north of downtown. A homecoming event had just wrapped up when shots rang out and the campus locked down.
Yeah. Just us two.
And cell phone video shows just how tense this was for students as police went dorm to dorm looking for suspects. People on campus had to shelter in place for hours. Police have not said what led up to the shooting. They say 4 of the 5 victims are students at Morgan State, and none of their injuries are life-threatening.
Police! Show me your hands. You walk right by me. Hands. You right there in the white Peters. Right in front of me. Walk right by me. That way. You gotta check and make sure. See your hands. Anybody else in there?
Open that shower, bro. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Everybody need a medic?
Nah.
Right, lift the shirts up. Turn around.
Thank you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, stop bluffing.
Stop bluffing.
Stop bluffing.